Hi everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Pythagorean Theorem. So hopefully you have the notes in front of you, you have the packet in front of you, and you can take notes as I go through these different pages. Um, First of all, you will need calculators today. So if you do not have calculators yet, maybe we can pause this video and you can get your hands on a calculator. You will need them during this lesson. All right, so we're talking about right triangles today. And how are we going to find a missing measurement in our right triangle? If we have two of the three side lengths, how can we find the third? So first of all, let's talk about some terms that I'll be using throughout this lesson. Here you see a picture of this right triangle here. The sides that are forming the right angle, you see how the vertex here, where these two sides are both connected. These sides are called the legs of the right triangle. So the legs form the right angle. We have the 90-degree angle where the two legs come together. The side across from the right angle is called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is what we call that measurement. It's always the longest measurement in the right triangle as well. Okay, the legs usually are different lengths. They can be the same length, but usually they're different. But the hypotenuse is always going to be the longest side of the triangle. All right, so the Pythagorean theorem it's a relationship that exists between the side lengths of a right triangle. We always label the legs A and B. Now I could call this side here A and this side here B. It doesn't matter. You can reverse which leg you call A, which you call B. But the hypotenuse is always side C. That's messy, and I'm trying to fit it in there where you can read it. But that's your hypotenuse, side C. And what happens is if you square all of these sides, the sum of the squares of the legs will equal the square of the hypotenuse. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That works for all right triangles. We could go through and prove why that works, but that would take more time than we need to spend. And the main thing is just remember this formula. It's actually a pretty easy formula to remember because it goes right in order, A, B, C here. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay? In effect, you're literally finding the area of a square that has this side length here, and the area of a square that has this side length here, side length B. And then you're finding the area of the square that would be built off of that hypotenuse. And the area of this square here added to the area of this square here would equal the area of this square here. Okay, and again, we could prove that, but we're not going to take the time to do that. Let's look at this first example here. I have a right triangle. I know so because of the right angle here. The 20 centimeter side and the 21 centimeter side are your legs because they are coming together here at this point, forming this right angle. So we're missing side C, which is the hypotenuse, which we know is the longest measurement. So what we do is we write down our Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and then we just fill in our numbers. A and B, it doesn't matter. We could call this A and this B, or we can call this A and this B. It looks like here they chose to call 21. They called this side A, and this one side B. And the hypotenuse has to be called side C. So anyway, 21 squared, this measurement here, plus 20 squared, this measurement here, equals C squared. And this is why we're going to need calculators. All right, so if you take 21 times 21, and you can grab your calculator. I just have a cheap calculator here that I'm using. So it really doesn't matter, but that would be 461 when you square that. Now, if you're using those scientific calculators, there is a button that says x squared. So you can just enter 21, hit the x squared button, and then hit enter. And it should say 461. Okay? And then the other number, actually that's 441. My apologies. 441. Some of you were probably freaking out this whole time saying, "Oh, Mr. Wyatt, that's not right." So this is 441. Let me rewrite it here. Sorry about that. And then 20 squared is 400. 20 times 20. is 400. And then we add these together, and we get 841 equals c squared. So whatever the length of side C is, when you take it times itself, it equals 841. If you want to unsquare a number, you need to find its square root. Now what you see here, this symbol here, plus or minus, just means you could take, well, I'll tell you in a little bit. What we're going to do is take 841 and find the square root of that. So on your scientific calculators, you have to hit the second function button, and then you'll hit the x squared button, and you should see above the button is a square root symbol. And now that square root symbol should appear on the screen of your scientific calculator. Okay, and then you enter 841 and you hit the enter button. If you did all that, you should get the answer. I'm going to do that on my calculator here. And I get 29 for a result. Now, the reason the plus or minus symbol is here is because actually 29 times 29 does equal 841. But negative 29 times negative 29 also equals 841, positive 841. Negative times negative is positive. So we really do have two results here, positive 29 and negative 29. However, could the side length be negative? Could this be negative 29 centimeters long? No, obviously it could not. So we only need to concern ourselves with the positive square root of 841, and that's 29. So this unknown side length here is 29 centimeters long, and I do provide the label here, centimeters, for that as well. All right, going forward, I'm not going to talk about the plus or minus symbol because it's only going to be the positive or principal square root, that's called, that we're going to need to concern ourselves with because we're dealing with a side length of a triangle. All right, example 1. A ladder is leaning against a building as shown in this figure. Here's your ladder. We don't know its length. It just says it's X feet long. What is the length of the ladder? The base of the ladder right here is sitting 12 feet away from the side of the upper addition of this house. And then it's spanning a full 16 feet up here. All right, these measurements are given, 12 feet here, 16 feet here. So we're given the legs of this right triangle here. The ladder represents the hypotenuse, which is side C, okay? They labeled it X feet. Maybe they should have just called it C feet because then that would fit a little bit better with Pythagorean theorem. Let me get my picture out of the way here. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Always start by writing down the formula for the Pythagorean theorem. We know a and b, it's the legs, 12 and 16 feet. It does not matter which one we call a, which one we call b. I usually like to call the shorter one a and the longer leg measurement b. That's my preference, but it really doesn't matter because you're just going to add those squares together when you're done. So 12 squared plus 16 squared equals c squared. Now I grab my calculator. 12 squared is 144. Again, you can use the x squared button on your scientific calculators. 16 squared is 256. So 144 plus 256 will equal c squared. Now when we add these together, we get 400 equals c squared. And remember, to unsquare a number, you find its square root. That's the inverse of squaring a number. So c will equal the square root of 400. Don't worry about plus or minus 400. We know we want the positive value. So let's just ignore that. And now the square root of 400. Again, you need to hit the second function button on your calculator. And then hit the x squared button. And then enter 400. And then hit enter. And you should get 20 as a result. C equals 20. All of these measurements are in feet. So that means that ladder is a 20-foot long ladder. What is the length of the ladder? It's 20 feet. All right. Um, let's look at another example here. And the mast of a sailboat is 15 feet tall. You can see that right here. And a support rope is attached to the top of the mast and attaches to the deck down here. And that's 8 feet away from the mast, from the base of the mast. Find the length of X, the support rope. So 8 feet and 15 feet, these are my legs because they are forming this right angle here. The missing measurement of that support rope is side C. I know it says X feet, but we're going to call it C. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And we're going to fill in 8 and 15 in place of the A and the B because those are the legs. So 8 squared plus 15 squared equals C squared. Are you getting the feel for this and how easy this is? 8 squared is 64 plus 15 squared, that's 225, equals C squared. Add those together, you get 289 is equal to C squared. So C is going to equal the square root of 289. Use your calculator to find that. It works out to exactly 17. So that support rope there is 17 feet long. Okay? So hopefully you're finding this is pretty easy to do. Here in this example, we have the legs are given 7 feet and 12 feet, and we're looking for the length of this stabilizing wire here, and that would be side C. So again, we would do the same thing. Notice on this one, you do get a number that's not a perfect square. So if you found the square root of 193, for example, it comes out to 13.892443, and it would keep going after that. At some point, we're going to have to round it, okay? And here it says to round to the nearest tenth. And so to the tenths place is one place past the decimal point. So would I go with 13.8 or would I round up to 13.9? Well, the 9 here, 5 or more, let it soar, I would round that up to 13.9 feet. Just so you know, sometimes they don't come out as nice whole number answers. And so you will need to round however you are asked to round. Here it says to the nearest tenth. Okay? I hope that makes sense. I'm kind of rushing through here. Here you see your right triangle. Again, the legs are given. We're looking for the hypotenuse, which is the slant height of this cone to the nearest tenth. What would we do if we were missing a leg? I'm going to do one example of this very quickly, and then that's all I'll have time to do here before you get your assignment. See, a plane takes off from an airport and travels 13 miles on its path. So here it's taken off right here. It's traveled 13 miles going upward. And if the plane is 12 miles from its takeoff point horizontally, how high is it above the ground? What is its height? This time I'm actually missing a leg. I'm going to call that missing side, instead of X miles, let's call it A. And then the 12 miles would be B. 13 miles, that's across from the right angle. That's C, your hypotenuse. And so I just start plugging in some numbers here. A squared, that's what I'm looking for, is side A. Actually, they reverse it here. They have 12 squared plus B, the other one is X squared, and that equals 13 squared. Okay, so they're using 12 for their A, and the missing side is what they're putting in for B. Okay, 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 169. See, in this one, you can't add these up. They're on opposite sides, so you actually have to subtract 144 from each side, which gives you 25. So x squared equals 25. So x would be the square root of 25, which is 5 miles. So that plane at that point would be 5 miles above the ground. Okay, I know I went through this kind of quickly and it's kind of messy, but you can always go back and watch this again. It's in Google Classroom. Okay, your assignment today is practice 415, and it's a worksheet, and you need to do these problems right here, 1 through 7 all, 9 through 11 all. Okay, that's it.